So today we're going to be looking at addition, doing a lot of practice questions. So we're going to start at the start, kind of make super basic questions, and then progressively get further and further into harder questions. And so this might be quite a long video. And so hopefully across the course of it, the way that this, I guess, is supposed to be consumed is that you're attempting the question, maybe after a couple of my examples, and then you should be attempting each one before I do it. And so you won't learn just by watching me write things down. You've really got to write them down yourself. So watch a couple examples from me, have a crack as we go along, and then check how I do them and see whether I'm matching your answers. So here we want to add 0 and 13 for the first one. And so when we add 0 to anything, we need to remember that we're just going to get the other number, or if it's 0 plus 0, we're just going to get 0. And so ultimately what we get here is 13. So 13 plus 0 and 0 plus 13 both equal 13. If you need any explanations for why these things are happening, you can go check out the addition theory lecture. And so that's the place where all of the knowledge will lie. Come here to do your practice questions once you understand the concepts. Zero plus 5,280. Well, that's just going to be 5,280. 5,280 plus 0. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter which way around we have it. And so that will be 5,280 also. Eight plus 3. So that will be 11. Then we've got 3 plus 8. As I said a second ago, it's commutative. It doesn't matter which way we have it. And so therefore that will also be 11. 7 plus 5, and then 5 plus 7. You should be able to see this is the exact same question, and so they're just ordered differently. So one has the 7 first, one has the 7 last, and so they both are equal to 12. All right, on to some more difficult examples. So now we've got 45 plus 33. And so this is where we want to line everything up in columns, ensuring their places align. Now we go 5 and 3, which is 8. Then we go 4 and 3, which is 7, and we get 78. So now 37 and 22. Same process, line them up in columns. And so we get 7 plus 2, which is 9, 3 plus 2, which is 5. So we get 59. 71 plus 28. So we line them up in columns. 8 plus 1 is 9, and 7 plus 2 is 9, and so we get 99. And so this should start to feel pretty easy at this point. These are very easy examples, and so you should be kind of getting the hang of it. We don't have to carry, we don't have to do any crazy things here. 43 plus 53, so we want to line them up. Now we go 3 plus 3, which is 6, and then 4 plus 5, which is 9. And so we get 96. Should add a plus sign there too. 26 plus 59. And so here we have 9 plus 6, which is 15. So this is where we need to carry the 1 to the next spot. And so we go 1 plus 10, 1 plus 2, sorry. So that's 3 plus 5, which is 8. And so we get 85. 38 plus 17. So 38, 17, lined up in columns. Then we get 7 plus 8, which is 15. Carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And so we get 55. 64 plus 78. Same process. So we get 4 plus 8, which is 12. then we carry the 1, and we get 1 plus 6, which is 7, plus 7, which is 14. And so in this case, we put the whole 14 because there's no next place to carry it to. You can also think of it, if it was 14, you would then carry the 1 to the next place. 1 plus, and then there's nothing there, would be 0 and 0, and so that would end up equaling 1. So in this case, we have 142. 92 plus 39, so we line them up. 9 plus 2 is 11, carry the 1, then we get 10 plus 3 is 13, same exact thing as the last example, and so we end up with 131. 168 plus 325, so this is an extra place. We have the hundreds place in this one, but it doesn't change the process. And so ultimately, we're just going to go right to left again. And so we go 8 plus 5, 13, carry the 1. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 2 is 9, nothing to carry there. And then 1 plus 3 is 4. And so we end up with 493. So if any of this is moving too fast, I really do suggest going back to the other video. I'll have that pinned into the comments. 247 plus 149. We line them up. Put the plus sign and the line underneath. Then we go 7. Doesn't really look like a 7. 7 plus 9 is 16. 1 plus 4 is 5. Plus 4 is 9. 2 plus 1 is 3. And we end up with 396. 584 plus 277. So we line them up. 4 plus 7 is 11. 1 plus 8 is 9. Plus 7 is 16. 1 plus 5 is 6. Plus 2 is 8. And we end up with 861. $175 plus 648. Same process. 5 plus 8 is 13. 1 plus 7 is 8. Plus 4 is 12. Carry the 1, then we get 1 plus 1, which is 2, plus 6, which is 8. And we end up with 823. And so hopefully now you're getting a really good feel for the pattern of these and how to approach all of these. Hopefully you are having a go at them. 832 plus 199. So 2 plus 9 is 11. Carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 9 is 13. Carry the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. Plus 1 is 10. If we put the 0 here from the 10, then we carry the 1. We end up with 1 there. And so we can just add the 10. And so we end up with 1031. And so we should put our little comma there as well to separate the fact that we've passed the ones period. We're now into the thousands period. 775 plus 369. So we get 5 plus 9 is 14. Carry the 1. 1 plus 7 is 8. Plus 6 is 14. Carry the 1 again. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 3 is 11, so we end up with 11 there. Just put our comma, and so ultimately we get 1,144. $6,358 plus 492. So this is a little bit different. Now we've got a thousands place in one of the numbers, and so I usually like to put those up the top. But it's a matter of personal preference. It doesn't actually make a difference. The only difference here is we want to make sure we're lining up our places. And so we put the hundreds place in line with the hundreds place from the thousands number. And so we line it up like that. Then we go same exact process. So 8 plus 2, 10. Carry the 1. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 9 is 15. Carry the 1 again. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 4 is 8. Then comma, and then 6 goes down. And so we bring this 6 down because there's nothing there. So we're really adding 6 and 0, and so it just gets brought down. And so ultimately what we get is 6,850. 9,184 plus 578. So I like to have the larger number up the top. Just lining up those places together. And so we get 4 plus 8 is 12. Carry the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 7 is 16. Carry the 1 again. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 5 is 7. Add our comma, and then we can bring that 9 down. And so we end up with 9,762. Now we've got some larger numbers. Notice the larger number in the 10,000s place is going to be on the right hand side of this equation. I would like that on the top, and so it doesn't matter which way you write it. And so I just carry that up to the top and then put the smaller number below. And so we've got to make sure we line up our places here. And so the second number starts with the thousands place. If you have any trouble, you can always work right to left, and so you can identify which places align. So 3 plus 0 is just going to be 3. 9 plus 4 is 13. Carry the 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. Plus 7 is also 13. Carry the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. Plus 3 is 12. So we should add our comma there as well. Then we carry that 1, and then we get 1 plus 1, which is 2. And so we end up with 22,333. $6,118 plus 15,990. And so I like the larger number at the top. Plus 6,118. And so 0 plus 8 is 8. 9 plus 1 is 10. Carry the 1. 1 plus 9 is 10. Plus 1 is 11. Carry the 1 again. 1 plus 5 is 6. Plus 6 is 12. Carry the 1. And then those become 2. And so ultimately we get 22,108. 485,012 plus 619,848. And so they've both got the same amount of places. When I say I want the larger number, it doesn't matter if they're the same number of places. I only mean the larger number in the sense of if one's got the hundreds place and then one's got the 10,000s place, I'd prefer to have the 10,000s up on the top. So writing both these numbers up, remember they've both got the hundreds thousands place, and so it doesn't matter which one goes on top. Just got to make sure we align all these, which should be pretty easy. Now we just go 2 plus 8 is 10, carry the 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 4 is 6, 0 plus 8 is 8, then we got the comma, 5 plus 9 is 14, carry the 1, 1 plus 8 plus 1 is going to be 10, so we carry the 1 again, and then we get 11 here. And so ultimately what we get is 1.1 million and then some change. So 1,104,860 to be exact. All right, so 368,911 plus 857,289. And so now we just got to work the exact same process. 1 plus 9, 10. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Plus 8 is 10. Carry the 1. 1 plus 9 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. So we carry the 1 there. 1 plus 8 is 9. Plus 7 is 16. Carry the 1. 1 plus 6 is 7. Plus 5 is 12. So carry the 1 again. 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 8 is 12. And so we would put the 12 there, making sure to separate with our comma. And so we end up with 1,226,000 200. All right, so now a little bit different here. Now we're adding three numbers. I would start at the top with the largest place value number, and so I would use the 24,731 at the top. Remembering that it doesn't really make a difference, this is just personal preference. Then we go and we want to add the next largest number, which would be 3,868, ensuring that we're lining the places up correctly. And then finally we have 592. And so now we get 1 plus 8, which is 9, plus 2, which is 11, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 6 is 10, plus 9 is 19. Carry the 1. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 8 is 16, plus 5 is 21. So we put the 1 there, and then we carry a 2 this time. 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 3 is 9. Got to make sure to add our comma there, and then we just bring the 2 down. And so we end up with 29,191. Okay, same deal here. So I line them up in terms of the largest place value at the top, the smallest at the bottom. And so 28,925, 4,593, and then 817. Just got to be really, really careful to ensure the places do line up correctly. So we've got 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 7 is 15. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 9 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 8 is 23. So we're going to carry a 2 that time. Make sure that comma's there. 2 plus 8 is 10, plus 4 is 14. We've got to carry the 1, and then we get 1 plus 2, which is 3. And so we get 34,335. Same deal again. So we've got 76,946, 16,570, and then 8,015. So we want to add all these together. And so we get 6 plus 0, which doesn't change anything. That's still 6. Plus 5 is 11. 1 plus 4 is 5. Plus 7 is 12. Plus 1 is 13. 1 plus 9 is 10. Plus 5 is 15. Have that comma, carry that 1. 1 plus 6 is 7. Plus 6 is 13. Plus 8 is 21. So this time we're carrying a 2. And then we've got 2 plus 7 is 9, plus 1 is 10. And ultimately that means we just carry down that 10, and we get 101,531. So now 54,107 plus 28,635 plus 6,291. So we're adding these all together, ensuring the places are lined up. 7 plus 5 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 1 plus 0 is 1, plus 3 is 4, plus 9 is 13 again. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 6 is 8, plus 2 is 10. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 8 is 13, plus 6 is 19. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 2 is 8. And so we get 89,033. So this should really be making a lot of sense to you at this point. We've done a lot of examples so far, and there's a few to come. And so just make sure you're getting this process down pat. Okay, on to something different now. So now we have to translate and simplify. So to translate, what we do is we turn a worded phrase into a numerical phrase or a numerical expression. And so when we're looking at things, we're looking for key phrases or key words. And so when we're looking for sums, we're looking for things that are added together. And so we see two numbers there. So we see 13 and 18. So to translate this, we would have 13 plus 18. And so to simplify means to do all of the math that we possibly can. And so in this situation, that is all the math that we can possibly do. So maybe we could just line them up in their places like we have been, add them, and then find the answer to that expression. So pretty simple here compared to the examples we've just been doing. And so we end up with 31. I won't go too in depth into adding them together because we've just done a bunch of those actual questions. So key thing here to remember, translate means worded phrase to numerical expression. Simplify means do all of the math possible. You end up with the result. And so we find the sum of 13 and 18 is 31. And so the other thing I'll say is because we've got a worded question, we want to give a worded answer. And so I'm not going to write them out completely. My handwriting's terrible, but I'll just write them afterwards. And so what I would write as a solution would be the sum of 13 and 18 is 31. So same thing, the sum of 12 and 19. And so we would line it up, get 12 and 19. So that's the expression translated. And so now you just get 2 plus 9 is going to be 11, carry the 1, and you end up with 31. And so the sum of 12 and 19 is 31. And so in actual questions or exams or whenever you're at school or uni, make sure you are writing a complete worded answer. It's really, really, really important. So now we want to translate and simplify the sum of 90 and 65. So the sum means addition, 90 and 65. And so same process we've been using. So you go 0 plus 5 is 5, 9 plus 6 is 15, and we end up with the sum of 90 and 65 is 155. Translate and simplify. So we've got a sum, which means adding together. 70 and 38 are the numbers that we want to add together or find the sum of. And so we end up with 8 there and 10. And so we end up with the sum of 70 and 38 is 108. So now a little bit different. So we're looking for the key phrases. And so this one says increased. Well, to increase something means to make the number larger. And so the way that we do that is we would add. And so increased is finding a sum of a number or increasing a number by a certain amount, which means to add that amount to the original number. And so we've got 33 and 49. And so all it's saying when we say 33 increased by 49, we want to add 49 to 33. It doesn't matter the order that you do this in terms of your expression. It could be 49 plus 33. Remember, it's commutative, and so we get the same answer. But we do need to be careful with understanding what the question is actually asking of us. And so 3 plus 9 is 12. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 4 is 8. And we end up with the sum, not the sum, 33 increased by 49 is 82. 68 increased by 25, which means we want to add 25 to 68. And so here we'd get 8 plus 5, which is 13. And then we'd get 8 and 9. And so we end up with 68 increased by 25 is 93. 250 more than 599. And so more than is just a different way of saying increased. So if we say 250 increased by 599, we're saying that we want to have 250 as our original number and we add 599 to it. If we're saying it's 250 more than 599, we're just really swapping those numbers around. And so we're really increasing 599 by 250. But as I said, it's commutative and it doesn't matter. And so in this case, we would have 599 plus 250. And so we just do this the same as every other one. So we end up with 9, 14, carry the 1, 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 2 is 8. And so we end up with 849. So 250 more than 599 is 849. Translate and simplify, 115 more than 286. So same thing here. we're going to add 115 to 286. And so we go 6 plus 5 is 11. 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 1 is 10. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 is 4. And so we end up with 115 more than 286 is 401. The total of 628 and 77. And so to have a total also means to have a sum. And so if we're adding two things together, we get a total. And so we'll just do that now. Make sure we line up our places there correctly. And we get 8 plus 7, which is 15. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 7 is 10. And 1 plus 6 is 7. And so we end up with the total of 628 and 77 is 705. So then translate and simplify the total of 593 and 79. And so we're looking for total again. So we want to add 79 and 593 together. Just making sure we're lining up our places correctly. 3 plus 9 is 12. 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 7 is 17. Carry the 1, then we get 6 there. And so we end up with 672. So now a different word phrase, we have added to. This is the same as increased by or more than, whatever it is, it's all the same. And so this one's actually quite easy to understand. Remember, addition and adding something or added to is all the same kind of word. And so we end up with 1,482 plus 915. So 2 plus 5 is 7, 8 plus 1 is 9, 4 plus 9 is 13, carry the 1, then we get 2. And so we end up with 2,397. And so I know I'm moving fast, but there's a lot of examples and we've been slowly picking up speed as we've been going. This is more about understanding at this point what the word phrases are and then how to translate and simplify. So translate and simplify. So we've got added to again. So we know we're adding two numbers together. And so we end up with 2,719 plus 682. So we get 9 plus 2 is 11. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 8 is 10. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 6 is 14, comma, add the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. And so we end up with 2,719 added to 682 is 3,401. So now we're moving on to some application questions, some harder word questions. And so remember that we're really doing the same thing. So I've given you the translate and simplify. I've given you how to add, and now we're putting those together. We're finding how can we create numerical expressions from potentially real world application or problem solving questions. And so you might see things like perimeter. That's a big thing in addition. You might see things where we're just adding totals together. Maybe we're adding calories together for a meal, or we're adding costs together to find out how much we need for a certain amount of things. There's so many different possible types of problem. We just need to be able to identify them. And so here, let's have a read. Sophia remodeled her kitchen and bought a new range, microwave, and dishwasher. The range costs $1,100, the microwave costs $250, and the dishwasher costs $525. What was the total cost of these three appliances? And so we really need to be looking for those word phrases that we've been looking at. So things like sum, added to, more than, increased by. And so the one I see here is we have a total. And so remember, we were just using total, and that meant to add a couple of numbers together. And so do we have any numbers? And so in this case, we're trying to find the total cost. And so we've got three costs here for some different items that she's bought for her kitchen. And so if we want to find the total, we want to add these amounts together and we'll find out how much she actually spent on the appliances. And so I still like to start with the largest place value number on top and then go down in terms of decreasing places. And so I'd start with $1,100, and then we'll add to 250. I probably wouldn't have the dollar sign there, to be honest. I would wait until the end to put the dollar sign in. And so that's just my personal preference. Of course, you could have it out the front here for all of them. It doesn't really matter. But as long as you do have it at the end, it is really important to have it at the end. And remember, we need a worded answer to a worded question. And so this is the same process that we've been doing. So we want to add 0, 0, and 5, and we end up with 5. 0 plus 5 is 5, plus 2 is 7. Then 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 5 is 8. And then we just carry down that 1. And so we end up with $1,875. And so I won't write it down, but if I was going to write down something, I would write down the total cost of the 3 appliances was $1,875. So Aiden bought a baseball bat, helmet, and glove. The bat cost $299, the helmet cost $35, and the glove cost $68. What was the total cost of these 3 appliances? And so I don't know whether I'd necessarily call them appliances, but we'll just scratch that out and we'll call them like pieces of sporting gear. And so really what we're looking for here is a key phrase to tell us what we're doing. And so we're looking for the total. And so total means to add. We can find our different prices that we're trying to add together because we're finding the total cost. And then we just want to align those like we did in the last question and add them together. And so the exact same process. And so we end up with 9 plus 8 is 17, plus 5 is 22, carry the 2. 2 plus 9 is 11, plus 6 is 17, plus 3 is 20. Then we carry the 2, and 2 plus 2 is 4, and we end up with $402. And so if I was going to write a worded answer, I would say the total cost of these 3 pieces of sporting equipment, I guess, would cost $402. Something like that, super simple, but it shows that you understand how to give the answer in not just a mathematical expression, but you actually understand it in the context of the question. Ethan rode his bike 14 kilometers on Monday, 19 kilometers on Tuesday, 12 kilometers on Wednesday, 25 kilometers on Friday, and 68 kilometers on Saturday. What was the total number of kilometers Ethan rode? And so even though it's a different context, we're not talking about costs, we're talking about distance in this one. We're still looking for a total, as you can see here. And so we want to just find what we're actually adding together. And so we're finding the total number of kilometers. So any numbers where we have kilometers, so 14 kilometers, 19 kilometers, 12 kilometers, 25 kilometers, and then 68 kilometers. These all need to be added together to find how many kilometers he rode during that week. And so because they've all got the same amount of places, it doesn't really matter where we start. And so just so that I can make sure I'm getting all of them, I'm just going to start from the first and go all the way through the question. So we end up with 14, 19, 12, 25, and then 68. And so although we don't do it very often, you can add all of these numbers together at once as long as you're good at keeping track as they become larger. And so you might have numbers that go into the 30s or the 40s at this if you have 5 numbers added together. And so 4 plus 9 is going to be 13, plus 2 is 15, plus 5 is 20, plus 8 is 28. And so we carry down that 8, and then we put the 2 over here. And so then we get 2 plus, and then we got 3 ones, so that's really 3 is 5, plus 2 is 7, plus 6 is 13, and we end up with 138. And so we know that this is in kilometers because all of these other numbers are kilometers also. And so if I was going to write a worded answer to this, I would say Ethan rode a total of 138 kilometers between Monday and Saturday. Leah has a flower shop. Last week she made 19 floral arrangements on Monday, 12 on Tuesday, 23 on Wednesday, 29 on Thursday, and 44 on Friday. What was the total number of floral arrangements Leah made? And so this one is very similar to the last one. We're just looking at floral arrangements instead of kilometers and costs. And so here we can see the word total, which indicates that we're adding. And so we just want to extract our numbers from this paragraph. And so I can see that we had 19 here, 12, 23, 29, and 44, ensuring that they're all referring to floral arrangements. Sometimes they can throw you off and have different numbers like dates in there. We certainly, if they said it was in 2025, wouldn't want to add that number. That wouldn't make much sense. She would be very, very busy if she was making 2025 in a single day. And so we just want to add these numbers. So we get 19, 12, 23, 29, 44. And so same process as the last question. So we get 9 plus 2, which is 11, plus 3 is 14, plus 9 is 23, plus 4 is 27. So we want to carry that 2 over. Then we get 2, and then 2 ones, which is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8, plus 4 is 12. And we find out that she made 127 floral arrangements that week. And so I'm not sure what they're worth, but that sounds like she's done a good job for the week, and that would be quite a bit of money for her. And so if I was going to write that in a sentence to answer the question, I would say, during the week between Monday and Friday, Leah made 127 floral arrangements. It's pretty simple. All right, Jackson lives in a 7-room apartment. The number of square feet in each room is 238, 120, 156, 196, 100, 132, and 225. What is the total number of square feet in all 7 rooms? And so, bit of an odd question. So, a 7-room apartment. And so, we're trying to find the total number of square feet. And so, I'm looking here, I'm identifying the word total. At that point, I would then realize that I'm looking for some kind of sum, or I'm looking for some numbers added together. And luckily, I have all of the numbers added or listed out there. And so because they're all in the hundreds place, I could just list them out from left to right. And so I'd go 238. Oh, that's not a very good 8. Still not a very good 8, but it'll do. 120, 156, 196, 100, 132, and then 225. And so alternatively, you could choose to group these and add that together and then add that to the next one, then add that to the next one. That's perfectly fine too. I just prefer to do them all at once the same way. And so we get 8 plus 0, which is 8, plus 6 is 14, plus 6 is 20, plus 0 is still 20, plus 2 is 22, plus 5 is 27. And so we end up with the 7 there, carry the 2. Now we get 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 2 is 7, plus 5 is 12, plus 9 is 21, plus 0 is still 21, plus 3 is 24, plus 2 is 26. And so now we carry the 2, and then same process again. Now I'm going to simplify these ones. I know there's 5 ones, so I'm just going to add 5. The 2 and the 2 make 4, plus those 5 ones will be 9, plus 2 is 11. And so that 11 will become there. And so we end up with 1,167 feet squared. And so if I was going to answer this as a worded answer, I would say that Jackson has a total of 1,167 square feet in his apartment. 7 men rented a fishing boat. The weights of these men were 68, 82, 95, 69, 76, 100, and 88 kilograms. What was the total weight of these 7 men? And so I'm gonna go through this one quite fast, and so I'll outline my thought process as I do. And so I know we're looking for total. I'm looking for total weights, and I can see these weights are given here. And so then I can see that they're all in the tens place except for the 100. So I would put the 100 up the top. Not that it matters though. And so you can place it wherever. Then I would just work left to right for the rest, and I'd make sure they lined up the place values. So 68, 82, 95, 69, 76, and then skip that 100 because we got it up the top, and we add 88. So now, same process. 0 plus 8 is 8, plus 2 is 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 9 is 24, plus 6 is 30, plus 8 is 38. 3 plus 0 is 3, plus 6 is 9, plus 8 is 17, plus 9 is 26, plus 6 is 32, plus, and I'm going to go to the 8, and then add that, and then come back to the 7 just to make it 40, and then I add the 7, and it's 47. And so you can do things like that as you become more comfortable. And so 4 plus 1 is going to be 5. We end up with 578 kilograms. So that's what kg means. And so to answer this, I would say the total weight of the 7 men on the fishing boat was 578 kilos. Last year, Natalie's salary was $82,572. 2 years ago, her salary was $79,316. And 3 years before that, it was $75,298. What is the total amount of Natalie's salary for the past 3 years? And so I shouldn't say 3 years before that. So it's last year, then 2 years ago, and then 3 years ago. So they're consecutive years. And then I can see that we're looking for a total, and it happens to be a total amount. And so amount, we're thinking of some kind of currency, which would be dollars in this case. And so the numbers I'm looking at would be the salaries. And so we would have that salary there, that salary there, that salary there. And so either things are getting inflated and they're having to drive the salaries up, or she seems to be doing a pretty good job. And so it's constantly increasing, which is great. 7,000 over the course of 3 years isn't a bad go. And so I just list these out. $79,316. And now, because they're all the same place value, I can just add them together from right to left. And so we end up with 2 plus 8 is 10, plus 6 is 16. Carry the 1. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 9 is 17, plus 1 is 18. Then we got 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11. Carry the 1 again. Make sure we got the comma. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 5 is 8, plus 9 is 17. Carry that 1. Then we've got 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 7 is 16, plus 7 is 23. And so we can see that over the last 3 years, she has earned $237,186. And so that's pretty good. We can then say that as an answer, as a worded answer to the question, we can say that Natalie has earned a total amount of $237,186 in the past 3 years from her salary. Emma is a real estate agent. Last month, she sold 3 houses. The selling prices of the houses were $1,589,000, $504,000, and $1,423,699. What was the total of the 3 selling prices? And so just walking you through my thought process, I see total. I'm looking for a total of 3 prices. And so I know that these must be the prices. Then I would list them out. So I would have 1,589,000, and then I would do the next number, which would be 1,423,699, and then 504,000. So we just got to ensure we line those places up correctly. These first 3, or the first period, is quite easy. I can just bring down the middle numbers, and so we have 699. The reason I do that is because we've got zeros for the rest. So then we start doing some math here. We have 9 plus 3 is 12, plus 4 is 16. 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 2 is 11. We've got a 0 there, so that's fine. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 4 is 10, plus 5 is 15, comma, add the 1, then we add them together and we find 3,516,699. And so a worded answer would be that Emma has earned or has sold a total of $3,516,699 in the last 3 houses she sold in the last month. Something like that. All right, so that's the end of the worded questions. They're all much the same. You'll see different contexts, but we're just looking for things, especially the total or added to or increased by. So those things kind of indicate that we're adding. So if you can kind of get used to that, you'll be in real good stead. So now, another context that we see a lot of addition is the perimeter. And so when we're looking at shapes, we're looking on the outside edge. How long or what is the distance of some external edge? And so you see this a lot in questions, like maybe there's a fence around a property, and so we need to calculate how long that fence is. And so when we're doing perimeter problems, we need to be careful of a couple of things. Namely, we want to be careful that we're doing the right thing, so we're adding. And then the other thing is we're always going to have units, and so we've got to make sure we carry those units in the answer. And so all we do for perimeter is we add the sides together. And so you can see this is a triangle, and so we've got 3 different lengths here, and they happen to be in inches. And so I would just add them like that, and so we get 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 8 is 14. Carry the 1, and then we've got 4 ones, so we've got 44. And so we can say that this perimeter is 44 inches. And so it might be worthwhile, if there's no real numerical expression given, to give a worded answer and to say something like the perimeter of the shape is 44 inches. At the very least, box your answer or highlight it or whatever your teacher prefers so that they can see where you've actually finished the answer. So I'm going to go through these fairly quickly now because it's just basic adding. All we're doing is adding the sides together. And so try them yourselves and then check to make sure you were right. And so 13, 12, 5. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 5 is 10. Carry that over, we get 30. And so we end up with 30 centimeters. And so when I say box the answer, I mean something like that. So then we've got 21, 21, 7, 7. So we go 1 plus 1 is 2, and 7 plus 7 is 14. So we're going to add 2 and 14 together and we get 16. Carry the 1, then we get 5. So we end up with 56 meters in this case. So really be careful with your units. This one's in feet, but it's the same process. And so we end up with 19, 19, 14, 14. So we go 9 plus 9 is 18, plus 4 is 22, plus 4 is 26. Carry the 2. 2 plus 4 ones is going to be 6. And so we end up with 66 feet. Now this one's in yards, not something commonly used in Australia, but it's important to ensure you understand all of the different types of unit we can see. And so we get 19, 16, 18, and 18. Add them together. So 9 plus 6 is 15, plus 8 is 23, plus 8 is 31. Carry the 3. 3 plus 4 ones is going to be 7. And so we end up with 71 yards. Same thing here, we're in meters, so 24, 29, and then 2 17s. Add them together. 4 plus 9 is 13, plus 7 is 20, plus 7 is 27. 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6, plus another 2 ones is going to be 8. And so we end up with 87 meters. So this is a really odd looking shape, but it's the exact same principle. And so we're just going to calculate all the side lengths and add them together. And so we've got to be careful to make sure we've got them all. And so in this case, I'm going to give you an example where I don't put the larger place value numbers on top. So it doesn't matter. We're just got to be really careful with aligning our places. And so we've got 4, 24, 7, 19, 3, 5, and that's it. And so I'd like to do a quick double check there, make sure I got them all. So 4, 24, 7, 19, 3, and 5. So I can see that they're all there. And so at that point, you just add them together the same way. And I'm sure that you can see that it is a little bit neater the way that I do it, where I list the larger place values at the top. And so we end up with 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 7 is 15, plus 9 is 24, plus 3 is 27, plus 5 is 32. And then we got to carry that 3. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6. And we end up with 62 feet. Same thing here. We want to list them out. We'll go left to right. So 11, 25, 10, 14, then 7. So just to double check, 11, 25, 10, 14, 7. Yep. Now you're going to add them all together. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 0 is nothing, plus 4 is 10, plus 7 is 17. Carry the 1, then we've got 4 ones plus a 2, and so we end up with 6. And so we've got 67 inches. Okay, just a couple of questions left. These are a little bit more real life context, something that will be really useful in your everyday life. And so in this question, we're looking at calories. And so Paula had a grilled chicken salad with ranch dressing and a 400 ml drink for lunch. On the restaurant's nutrition chart, she saw that each item had the following number of calories. And so we can see the different calories there. I won't read them out. What was the total number of calories of Paula's lunch? And so as much as this might look like a longer question, and it is, we're still just looking for a total here. And we're finding a total number of calories. We know she ate these items for lunch. And so these are the numbers here. And so really, if we're finding a total, we just want to add these numbers together. And so it's the same process. We just need to discern the information that we need from the question. And so we'd end up with 2 plus 7 there, which is 9, plus 5 is 14, carry the 1, and then we'd end up with 6 there. And so we could say that she had 640 calories for lunch. And so this one, I would give a worded answer, and I would say Paula ate 640 calories split between her grilled chicken salad with ranch dressing and her 400 ml drink for lunch. Something like that. So same thing here. Fred had a grilled chicken, a small fries, and a 500 ml chocolate shake for dinner. The restaurant's nutrition chart lists the following categories for, should be calories for each item. And so we've got the different calories there. What were the total number of calories of Fred's dinner? And so we would just do the same thing. So my thought process here is, what are we looking for? We're looking for the total number of calories. Where do I have the calories? I've got them here. And he ate each of those or drank each of those items. And so we know we just want to add them together. And so he seems like he may have had a little bit of a heavier lunch than Paula. Chocolate shake gives it away. May as well have a fried chicken if you're going to have a chocolate shake. But we bring down those zeros. 2, 3, which is 5, plus 8 is 13. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 2 is 7, plus 5 is 12. And so we end up with 1,230 calories. And so that's quite a heavy lunch. Definitely couldn't be having that every day. And so the worded answer I would give would be that Fred had a grilled chicken, a small fries, and a 500 ml chocolate shake for dinner, which amounted to a total of 1,230 calories. A student needs a total of 400 points on 5 tests to pass a course. The student scored 82, 91, 75, 88, and 70. Did the student pass the course? So this one doesn't say in the actual question itself, so did the student pass the course? It doesn't have the word total. It doesn't have the word added to, or the words added to. It doesn't have any indication of any phrase that talks about addition. but it does earlier in the question. So it says a student needs a total of 400 points. Now, if we're given that we need to find whether the student got 400 points or not, and then we've been given their scores and told that they get 4 or 5 tests that they do, then really if we have the scores for those 5 tests, then we can find out whether they got their total score that was high enough to pass the course. And so at this point, I would identify, okay, I have the scores. I know I want to find the total of those scores, see whether it's greater than 400. And so I would just add them together. And so we get 82, 91, 75, 88, and 70. Now we're just adding these together, same process. So 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 5 is 8, plus 8 is 16, carry the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 9 is 18, plus 7 is 25, plus 8 is 33, plus 7 is 40. And so we end up with 406. And so now you need to ask yourself, is this the answer? Do I just write 406 and that's it? That's a good day's work? So they asked, did the student pass the course? So really it's great that you found out their total score was 406. But you really need to say the student did pass the course as the student got 406 points out of the 5 tests and only needed 400 to pass. And so that would be the worded answer that I would give. The maximum weight capacity of an elevator is 1,150 pounds. 6 men are in the elevator. Their weights are 210, 145, 183, 230, 159, and 164 pounds. Is the total weight below the elevator's maximum capacity? And so looking for some keywords here, even though it's in a different context, I can still see that I want to find the total weight and then I have some other condition that I want to check. And so the condition is, once I find the total, I want to see if it's less than the maximum capacity, which we know is 1,150. And so a couple things to be wary of. We don't want to add the 1,150 to anything. That is part of the second thing that we're looking at. We first want to find the total weights. And so their weights are given here. And so these are the numbers that we want to add together. And so starting with that now, we'll just go 210, 145, 183, 230, 159, 164. And so now, same process we've been doing. And so we go 0 plus 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 9 plus 0 is 17, plus 4 is 21. 2 plus 1, 3, plus 4, 7, plus 8, 15, plus 3, 18, plus 5, 23, plus 6, 29. So we carry that 2. So then we get 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 ones, or plus 4 ones we should say, is going to be 6, plus another 2 is 8. And we find out their weights are 891. And so this would be in pounds. And so now we need to ask ourselves, is that below the elevator's maximum capacity? So we know the maximum capacity is 1,150. And so 891 is less than 1,150. So yes, they are below that. And so the worded answer would be, the total weights of the 6 men in the elevator is 891 pounds. This is less than the maximum capacity of the elevator, which is 1,150 pounds. And that would be about it. Awesome. So that was a long video. That gives you a lot of practice on addition. And so I'll bring one of these out for every lecture that we do. So we'll have one like this for subtraction. And so hopefully these give you a really, really good understanding of how to add together the process and then the different ways that it could come up. So whether it's worded questions, translating and simplifying, whether it's just numerical expressions, whether it's in perimeter. And so we really need to be comfortable with the process and then spotting when we need to use it. Okay, so if this video is helpful, it'd be really good if you could subscribe. We'll have heaps more videos coming out. We also offer tutoring over at kiered.com.au. And so you can book in a free consultation over there and have a chat if you like the way that we teach. I'll see you in the next one.